You are listening to Nerd Best Friends, a podcast that covers the nerdy conversations you're already having, or wish you could. It's the nerdiest thing you'll do this week.
This is Analese.
This is Rob, and we are your nerd best friends. Welcome back for another episode. Today, we are talking about nerds and gatekeeping.
Get ready to dive into the ultimate geeky goodness with Nerd Best Friends, available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Your support keeps our nerdy hearts beating, so smash that subscribe or follow button on every device you own. Want to go even further? Join our Patreon family or drop us a one-time donation on Venmo and let's geek out together.
We're back for another episode. How are you doing this week, Annalise?
Could it be better with my actual team? Let's not even talk about fantasy football team, but other than that, the weather's cooling down here and it's lovely.
That's the thing about the first half of the Nerd Best Friends season. It is dominated by fantasy football because we record on Sundays. So we even have to strategize like which games we're going to record during and what the implications will be.
Well, you probably don't even recognize that I always have the games on when we're recording anyways. It's just on mute.
Well, that's very distracting.
Here we are talking about gatekeeping, but first, let's get to that nerd mail.
Nerd mail. All right, Annalise, what do we have for nerd mail?
So we obviously are recording shortly after the passing of James Earl Jones, who was just so pivotal to nerdism and Star Wars. And I don't know about you, but I've seen some really funny reels about the actor that recorded the scenes live and his voice, and then it being dubbed over with James Earl Jones's voice.
Oh,
and
like you're talking about the guy like in the helmet on the set would say the lines so that you could interact. Yeah.
I don't know if that's old, but it, in his passing, it's popped up, and even the actors who said we had no idea what Darth Vader was supposed to sound like. I mean, it's phenomenal. If you haven't seen them, maybe we can copy them onto our social media or something because they are amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, what an incredible movie. Just you think about George Lucas and the way that things were done and the ground that was being broken, like the sound work on Star Wars alone. Like imagine filming that movie and you're like, sure, whatever. I'm pointing a plastic gun and like moving my hand and I'm waving around a PVC pipe. And then you go see the movie and the swords are glowing and you got the most amazing sound effects. And then you've been acting with this Darth Vader dude the whole time. And he comes in and it's just this booming James Earl Jones voice and the THX sound. You gotta be freaking out.
I saw a really great one too about how they made the sound of the lightsabers. It was based off of the sound of a old projector from the guy who led the sound went to USC, and there was some old projector he worked with, and he recorded it and then played with the sound. Like
I saw
so much good stuff that's come out. Yeah,
just the hum of this old projector in the AV room, and then when they hit each other, there's that classic sound, and that was the dude taking a wrench and hitting a big metal like tie rod thing, power line or something, and getting that like echoey sound. It's amazing.
They did such great work. But the nerd mail we got is, in light of James Earl Jones passing, what is your favorite non-Star Wars role of his? That's a great question.
I know mine.
Ours may be the same.
Oh, yeah?
I would be surprised if they weren't.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. You're much deeper into Star Wars where he did a lot more.
Well, I was under the assumption we could not pick Star Wars.
Right, but I mean
I'm pretty sure Darth Vader is the only character he ever played on Star Wars.
I guess I was thinking extended universe, but that's still Star Wars. So yeah,
it's still Darth Vader, right?
Yeah. I mean, mine is Field of Dreams.
Mine is Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I had a feeling ours would be the same. What a great role,
Terrence Stamp. Terrence Mann. Terrence
Mann.
Who's Terrence Stamp?
I have no idea who Terrence Stamp is.
I made him up.
What a great role. You get to hear his great laugh in this role. I'll do a part 2. Also in his passing, a bunch of these clips have started to pop up. I don't think either of us watched Big Bang Theory.
No.
But there is a phenomenal cameo that James Earl Jones did in Big Bang Theory, in which he ding-dong ditches Carrie Fisher's house with Sheldon. In the background, in the behind-the-scenes footage, they talk about that was the first time that James Earl Jones actually met Carrie Fisher, was for this.
Oh, wow.
Right. Crazy, right? Mind blowing.
No way. They didn't have like cast parties or like table reads and
I don't know that he ever went to them. And no, I don't think they had table reads weren't really a thing, especially if George Lucas I mean, James Earl Jones only showed it in post-production. None of the actors would have been around. And if he never went to, and maybe they were at cast parties, but didn't actually meet in these because the 70s and 80s were wild with drugs and alcohol. But it's a really funny scene. It's another one where you can hear his laughter, his infectious laughter. So great question, listeners. Thank you for that nerd mail. Now on to our new segment, Talk Nerdy to Me. So Rob, talk nerdy to me. The Golden Girls as the template for D&D's ideal adventuring party.
So this is true in a lot of television. You're going to have to help me out here because I don't know a lot about the Golden Girls. I know there's a Blanche. I know there's a Betty White. And
Rose.
And there was the real old one, but the real old Rose was like the mom of one of the ladies.
Yes.
And she was actually younger than another one of them.
Oh, is that true in real life?
All I know is stupid trivia about Golden Girls. I don't think I've ever watched an episode, but I know that like the oldest one was actually younger than one of the other ones.
How funny. I had no idea. But Betty White was, I believe, the youngest of the cast.
Okay.
And then you had B. Arthur, who played
the tall one.
The tall one, yep.
I think the old one, Rose, was actually in real life older than.
How funny. So the one playing her mom was older than her. That's we might have to be nerd.
We might have to fact check that. But listen, I told you, I'll bring the D&D half. And what they're talking about is the classic D&D party of like you have your fighter, your cleric, your thief, and your wizard, because you need your tank, your damage dealer, your support class, and your controller, which is everywhere, right? This is how all video game parties are made. This is everything, especially like if you get to a heist movie, they'll be real, just hang a lampshade on it. Like these are the roles of our adventuring party.
That's the whole premise of Ocean's 11, right? They have a role for each category for their big heist.
And they go right down the list of tropes. If you were going to write a heist story or play a heist RPG game, they just go down the list. Like we're filling out our character sheet. But Golden Girls. Okay, so we will start at the top. We'll start with the fighter, the tank, the person who's going to take all the damage, the person who is going to be your front liner. Who is that on the Golden Girls?
I think that's Dorothy, the tall one, the daughter, right? She's in the show. She's the one who's the most logical thinking. She's the one who's the most action. She creates the action and decisions.
The leader.
And she's the natural leader. I think we go with Dorothy.
Okay, so then next we'll go to our thief, our DPS, our damage dealer, our backstab, our striker.
That's a tough one, but I'm gonna go with Rose, the mom. Wait, I'm worried we have the names. Let's start with that because
I think you were right so far.
I think so too, but now I'm starting to Rose is the Betty White character. I was right on that. So it's Sophia.
Okay, not the old grandma one.
Sophia is the mom. So okay, corrected now.
Okay,
I think Sophia, the mom, is that role that
is your DPS because she's got the worst insults, right?
She's got the worst insults. She always has the stories. You know, one of her character tropes is like Sicily 1947, and she goes off into stories, but always she's the central point in so many episodes of their caretaking for her that she does wacky wonky things all the time.
Okay.
Or she comes in with the biting insult.
All right. So then speaking of caretaking, who is our cleric? Who is our support class? Who is the one that's actually helping?
This is a toss-up for me because either of the remaining characters, Rose and Blanche, could either be like a bard or a cleric. But I'm going to go with Rose as the cleric because she is the one who ultimately does the things to take care of people. She has the recipe or the blah, blah, and she's the comic relief of the episode.
Right. She's kind of the dumb one, right?
She's kind of a ditz, yeah.
Right. So that means that it's good that you saved Blanche because the next one is the wizard, the controller, the smart one.
I don't know that Blanche is the smart one, but she's easily the one that's more... I mean, she's smart. I think Dorothy's the smart one, but Blanche is the one who's going to take risks. She's the one who's going to react off instinct. I see her more as a bard than a wizard, but maybe a mix of those categories because she's the one who will take the risk to do the things. She's the risk taker of the group. I don't know a better way. In the show, they play it off as she's the most active of them.
Are you sure you don't want to reverse the fighter and wizard categories there?
Yeah, because I don't see Blanche as a fighter.
Okay.
She's a reactor, but I see Dorothy as the one who's leading the charge. She's the intelligent one who's coming up with the plans and enacting them and having to deal with the wizard who's just doing and reacting.
It's the kind of wizard that says, I didn't ask how large the room was. I said I cast fireball.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry, I get flashbacks to one of our D&D games when you say that. But yes, I walk into the room and boom, that's Blanche.
Okay.
That's a great D&D party.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Now the goal is to go to Only Games and see if they have minis. And then if they have minis, we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game with the Golden Girls. And nerds, write to us if you have. Send in your deep thoughts, nerd questions, talk nerdy to me subjects that you'd like us to cover. Slide into our DMs or send those topics to podcast@nerdbestfriends.com, especially if you have played D&D with the Golden Girls as your party.
You would be shocked how many action figures and toys are available for the Golden Girls.
I bet you could probably find a one-pager.
Like an RPG to play the Golden Girls role-play game? Like a one-page RPG?
Yeah, I bet you could find one. I think this is happening.
I think you could make one. That's your legacy. That's your nerd legacy. You thought it might be this podcast. It's not. It's going to be because you're the person who designed a one-page RPG for the Golden Girls.
If it doesn't exist, it's happening. We're going to have our first live Nerd Best Friend sessions on a Golden Girls one page.
Our topic this week is gatekeeping, and gatekeeping is the idea in our hobbies, especially our nerdy hobbies, that we are restricting or controlling access to this hobby via some ridiculous and arbitrary vetting process. And to put it plainly, or to give some examples, this is the fake nerd girl. This is the fake gamer. This is the casual gamer. This is the idea that if you don't know enough or you don't look like the people who have been here forever, you don't belong. And we see that sort of toxic fandom and this kind of gatekeeping in a lot of our hobbies, whether they be RPGs and where and who you can play with at your local store and how they do the signups, to your tabletop miniature games when you go and try to be in what might be like a friendly game of Magic, but it turns out to be a super hardcore tournament where people aren't very friendly. Same thing happens with the Warhammer community, of course. That's a whole thing. And video games, right? We have video games as also can be a very toxic community as far as who people accept and let in. So it's something to talk about, especially because I feel like on our show, we encourage people to be nerds and be proud of their nerddom and try new things, try new niche nerdy hobbies, and we try to celebrate those fun things when we find out about them with our guests or any kinds of new things. So that's what we're talking about this week, gatekeeping.
It's a great topic, and I will be really honest with you. I struggled a little bit with grasping the premise of it. Not that I didn't understand gatekeeping, but just really, we use the term a lot, hanging a lampshade. I was hanging a lampshade and really required me to look within as well as understand how gatekeeping affects, nerd communities. You made a great point just a second ago. I think video games is the most toxic example we can think of where it can actually be dangerous for female gamers. You could Google and read stories about female gamers who are threatened or constantly. I mean, it's really gnarly, the toxic gatekeeping. But I will say, the best example that really got me thinking about this episode, I was reminded of the last season of Stranger Things in the pivotal scene where the character Eddie is shredding Metallica's Master of Puppets. How the online conversations where people like, if you weren't listening to Metallica before this, you're a fake fan, blah, blah, blah. And
that's
it was
what we're talking
Metallica
about.
who posted, I don't remember if it was on Facebook or if it was on X, but they posted, if Master of Puppets opened the door for you to start listening to Metallica, we welcome all new fans, old fans. What a perfect example of gatekeeping, and what a perfect response from Metallica in saying, we don't care if Stranger Things was the first time you've listened to us. We're happy to have you.
Unless you're downloading us on Napster. In that case, get wrecked.
What they don't realize is that those of us old fans are still listening to our Napster MP3 recordings that we ripped.
Do you still have any discs? Do you still have any discs you made with your Napster downloads?
Okay, you know what's really funny? I have the original iPod Nano that still works. It doesn't attach to anything anymore. Doesn't I can't get it to talk
you'd
to
have
my
to have
computers.
that 40-pin weird thing.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I have the 40 pin to charge it, but not when I hook it
but
up.
not an auxiliary. Yeah.
Correct. So it still has all my Napster ripped MP3s on it. And I have it plugged into a little stereo and play it from time to time because it has all that stuff that, thank you, Napster. Haha, Lars.
Suck it, Lars Ulrich.
Okay, so that was an example of gatekeeping. Well, what else does gatekeeping look like?
So it looks like, so I've got my list of different topics to kind of recognize and respond to. And the first is that thing that you were talking about, that exclusivity factor, right? If you didn't own the original Master of Puppets album, you're not a real Metallica fan, right? If you weren't here since whatever the time and place was that I grew up with, you're not a real fan.
Right.
Even with different clubs and things of boys clubs and girls clubs, if you are not this, you can't be here. And we see that a lot, right? We'll have like niches within clubs, and it's very difficult for the new person maybe to jump into a game, whether that be, and a lot of this of course happens at your game store in public places, right? Like, oh, we have D&D night. Oh, can I play D&D tonight? No, we're full, right? Because you weren't here for the very first episode, so we don't want to take the time to deal with you. Or you're too young, or you look too old. We don't want you to be here. You weren't here since, that kind of thing. But of course, that can happen in your regular private life as well, right? Just about like the way you talk about your hobby may or may not make it seem open and available for other people. Judgment. We can talk about like a way of gatekeeping as even saying things that lead people to believe that they are not welcome because they are being judged. Oh, can you believe that guy in our fantasy football league? He doesn't even know what a blah, 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 because I don't know. But can you believe that person? They didn't know that this and that and blah, 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 the other. Well, if I'm hearing you talk about that and then next week you ask me to play in your fantasy football league, I would be like, no, because I don't know what you're talking about. And obviously I'm going to be judged and ganged up on. Same thing will happen when you're at the games. Guess we talked about the game store, but I will see it. You go into the place and they're playing like a Warhammer game, just one side of the table, making the other side of the table feel like an absolute idiot because they didn't know well, didn't you know the saving throw was only going to be 2 up because I had my storm shields, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, cool. I'm so glad I painted up my middies and headed over here to play a game so that I could be judged and feel bad, right?
You know, I will say that's what we talked about game stores a couple seasons ago. We had Dustin from that one game shop we went to. We follow him on our social medias, and I see from time to time create a character sheet for new D&D players. So I appreciate the game stores and places that create space for people to get into the hobby so they don't run into this kind of barrier or judgment against them.
Right. And I don't think you can be a shop and not be welcoming from the top down and still be in business. But we do. But there's those niches within niches at those places, right?
That's true.
Just because I'm the store owner and I'm hosting Magic the Gathering night doesn't mean that at one of the 10 tables, somebody's just being toxic, right? To the new kid who sat down or the girl that came in or whatever it might be, with just putting up those kinds of barriers. Well, I don't play anybody who doesn't have 2,000 points worth of whatever. Well, I don't play anybody who isn't a tournament player. Well, I don't let anybody in my group who hasn't been playing for at least 5 years. Those kind of arbitrary barriers that people will set up, or that people will feel just because of the way people will talk about their hobby in front of other people. And I think some of that, well, we'll talk later, but some of that is like, I don't want to seem like I'm a nerdy loser who plays this nerd game, so I'm going to make it seem really complicated and cool, but that builds a barrier in and of itself. And then the last one on my list is nostalgia bias, right? And I think we keep going back to that. Like, you're not a true fan unless you watch, oh, I see you're picking up that Buffy comic book. You don't look old enough to have remembered what it was like to watch the first episode live on Thursday night in 1997. I see people all the time they'll talk about it. They'll see a teenager wearing a concert shirt or like a rock and roll shirt
Name
from
a song
the
by
80s
that
or the
band.
90s. Like, oh, this kid never even knows what a record is, this and that, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean they can't, right? Like you were alluding to with Master of Puppets, right? There's the first time for everything, and there's no sharing there. As if being a fan of something or enjoying something at the time makes you some sort of like World War veteran that Only you truly know what it was like in the trenches.
Holier than thou. Yeah.
Right.
I think of Sean Austin memes, right? Like, oh, you know him as Lord of the Rings, but I met Sean Austin as Rudy. Well, I met Sean Austin as the Goonies. Like, that's gatekeeping an actor. Like,
yes,
I knew him back when because I watched the show here, so I'm a bigger fan than you are.
Exactly, as if you earned it. And I know for sure these thoughts go through my mind when we're talking about sports and my beloved Los Angeles Kings, who I watched for 20 years before they were any good and made the playoffs. Yeah. It's like I have some sort of badge of honor, right? Like, well, I have the scars. I've got the scars from the 90s and early 2000s to prove it. But again, like, of course, when they got good and did win the Stanley Cup, they got more fans than ever. That's how it works. And so what? I'm just going to sit here and be all bitter about, oh, my team has more fans now because they're good. These guys aren't real fans.
When we were bad.
You weren't here when we sucked. Yeah.
Like, so, I think about that a lot, actually. That's this nostalgia bias is where I really got stuck because I started thinking about like, okay, my last interactions with Buffy, I talk about the unique experience that I have having watched it from the beginning. But by all means, I love, like, we did the trivia with the mother-daughter, and the daughter definitely wasn't around. She wasn't maybe a baby, but watched it with her mom as she got older. I feel like I'm not gatekeeping there. I do feel like I have a unique perspective of someone who watched it from the beginning and was in the target demographic, but I welcome all Buffy fans, people who watch their first episode tomorrow, fall in love with it, and let's talk about it because that's what makes the nerdy hobby fun.
And then you get the remakes and all of a new audience and new actors don't deserve this property because this isn't how it was the first time around. The first time around when I was there, that was the best, obviously. How could they possibly do a remake?
And you know, the one that bugged me the most over the last, 6 to 10 years is all the old man griping over Star Wars. I think you and I have talked about this extensively, how like these newer Star Wars aren't made for us. It's nostalgia for us. They're not going to be what they were in the 70s when it was all mind-blowing, but these stories are being told for the future Star Wars fans. They're not being told for us. And man, talk about gatekeeping.
Talk about gatekeeping. The Star Wars fandom is very the two most toxic fandoms, I think, are Star Wars and video games. And when you get a Star Wars video game release, forget about it. Turn off the internet.
Just go away for a little bit.
Just go away. It's not going to be great. Take both of those terms out of your searches.
You're talking about an impact. So that's one of the impacts of gatekeeping, right? You turn people off and you maybe close an entire new generation from experiencing the things. What are some other impacts of gatekeeping?
So some other impacts then, of course, has a larger impact. If you are making a product or you have an intellectual property and you want that to build, you, of course, want to share it with as many people as you can because you might be proud of it, but also you need to make money. If your people who are enjoying your product are enjoying it in a way that is preventing other people from purchasing your product, you're actively hurting the thing that you're supposed to be a fan of. So that's one of those weird, like, unintended consequences of these things. I love this thing so much. I feel like I have to hold on to it and shun others away, is ultimately making it more likely that this thing I love will stop being made, will go away, will become more expensive because fewer people are buying it. Then what? Just keep doubling down, I guess.
Have you found yourself not getting into something because of gatekeeping?
Absolutely, 100%. Like lots of things because of that toxic culture, that idea of like, well, this isn't going to be a safe, good time for me to go start. I think when I was younger, back in my day, when Magic the Gathering first came out,
back in our time,
our first edition,
we had to go uphill both ways to play our Magic.
I mean, I did have to take the bus. But I did have to take the bus to get my first Magic cards because one of our friends had some and he was showing us the game, like, oh my gosh, look at that cool art, and this is a game and that seems cool, so let's go collect it. You buy some packs and stuff and take them out and you play with your buddies around the table who, you know, when you're a kid and you get that stuff, you're like, well, I don't have everything I need, so maybe I'll borrow one from you, or we'll trade this, or we'll just kind of house rule that we can use this way because we don't have the resources to get the real way, and like those kinds of things. And then, of course, Magic tournaments and Friday Night Magic. Well, I don't think it was Friday Night Magic, but like the comic book stores were packed with tables of people playing Magic back in the late 90s. And to see those guys just play super fast and just be ripping on each other, whether it was friendly banter or whatever. It's just so intimidating to be like a 15, 16-year-old kid. I'm trying to collect magic cards, and across from you is going to be some like 40-year-old nerd just shredding you and taking your cards and like making you feel bad because they got the money to buy the whole set and all that kind of stuff. I do remember that. And then I would say the same thing has been true with tabletop games like Warhammer for certain. You go and try to kind of watch a game and people are like pretty rude about it, or they're
like
making excuses.
And,
that kind of thing. Just never felt. There's definitely a time you would go into the store and they'd be like, hey, are you new? Have you ever played Warhammer before? I've got this demo game set up. Teach you how to do it and really kind of push on that. But I think that model isn't the way it is anymore at those Games Workshop stores. Now it's like those tables are rented out by the usual people who are always renting those things out. They want you in and out of there as fast as possible. Like I'll walk into our store that's not local. Like I got to travel to our store and I'll walk in and be like, oh, I want to check out like what's in the display case or, look around or whatever. It's like, hey, can I help you? Do you know what you need? Okay, let's get you rung up. Okay.
Right. I mean, it's one of those dual problems with Warhammer because they're so popular that salesperson's got to get you in and out. And also that gatekeeping is so there that it's only popular with the ones who have someone taking you by the hand, leading you into it so that by the time you can go to the shop, you're not stuck with I don't know what I'm doing. I'm new to this.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoy a ton of different games and nerdy hobbies, but they exclusively take place at my home or my friend's home, like with trusted friends that I already have.
I mean, the same could be said for me and Magic. Watching you all play, it was so fast and I didn't have the money to go buy cards. And I don't know that anyone ever intentionally said anything rude or mean to me. I just got the feeling.
You just get those vibes, right?
Yes.
And I think it's just, it doesn't necessarily have to be, the impact isn't because of a very direct thing. Most of all, it's an indirect kind of vibe of like, I somehow don't fit in with this group of people and they're not doing anything welcoming to me.
Yes.
And in fact, maybe the opposite, just by the way they're talking or making fun of others. I know they don't want me here.
I think there's a good example of not gatekeeping. I know we've talked about Henry Cavill in the past and his love for Warhammer. I very recently saw something of his, another little interview panel. I don't remember who the other people were, but it wasn't just him. And it was two women, him and another guy. And they were there obviously to promote something he was in. The question was like, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week? But it was like, what's your favorite hobby? And one girl's like, oh, I like da da da. And he says, well, it's Warhammer. And he British, it's Warhammer 40,000. And of course the girls start going, like laughing at him, which we'd have talked about in past episodes. But the other guy goes, oh, what army are you into right now? And he goes, oh, I'm doing Necrons and blah, blah, blah. And the other guy's like, oh, I just finished painting something else. And they look at each other and he's like, should we? And they're like, yes. Somewhere off camera, I imagine they exchanged numbers and went and played Warhammer together. So
hopefully
that's a great example of what the opposite of gatekeeping looks like. That was great to see. That's a great example of not gatekeeping, that not Henry Cavill going, oh, how long have you been painting for?
Right, because it definitely could go that way, right? What's your first reaction? Is it, oh, how long have you been playing? Or is it, cool, what do you do? Yeah.
Oh, that army is 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh, yes! I can't believe you said Necrons. Necrons are trash. Don't you follow the meta?
I can't believe you don't have the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I thought that was a great example.
Oh, that team. Yeah, they really got nerfed in this edition. Good luck, kid.
What? So that gets us to why people gatekeep.
I'm no psychologist, but I think that there's an investment people make in their hobbies. And I feel like that gives them a sense of ownership over it. Like, let's talk about video games. Video games are not and have never been cheap for kids, for like kind of that teenage audience. Like $60, like once a week or 2 times a month or even once a month is rough when you're a kid and you want to play the next cool video game. So when you do save up that money and when you do, make that investment, and maybe it's your console too, right? We have console wars with video games and stuff. Like you saved up for that $600 machine and game, and now you're playing it, you have to make sure that everything you do and you say backs up or supports that investment and that choice that you made. Oh my gosh, well, I'm an Apex Legend player. I love Apex Legends. That's the game I play. Oh, well, I play Call of Duty. Well, I didn't invest all my money and time and practice into Call of Duty. I invested all my time and money into Apex Legend. Therefore, if I'm going to feel good about myself, I have to tell you that Call of Duty sucks. What are you, some kind of idiot?
Oh, you youngsters in your new games, Call of Duty.
It's that sense of ownership. The same thing happens with, I remember those feel bad moments, especially with like Warhammer. Why I stopped playing Warhammer and why I never wanted to go play Warhammer is because it takes so freaking long to build and paint and get ready those stinking models that by the time you get to the table and somebody just like blows 15 of them off the board in the first turn, you get really angry. Like, I saved my money from my grandpa visits, and I bought this $15 stupid box of plastic, and I built it. I glued my finger together, and I painted it for 3 months, and I brought it here, and that's it. I rolled a 1, and that's it. You have this idea of ownership and investment, and it's become more than just a stupid game or just a silly thing we do together. It became part of who you are. So I think people double down on who I am can't be bad. So I have to defend this and protect it and make sure other people don't come in and make it different.
I think also a lot of these nerd hobbies find spaces for continuum of social norms. And what I mean by that is we've mentioned video gaming a few times, the misogyny. Right. I stopped playing Madden because the real thing is to go online and play against other people. But there's still this feeling that you are lesser of a man if you lose to a girl.
Sure.
So you get bullied and beat up, and not physically beat up, but it's not welcoming when you have a female video gamer that's good at these things. Although I will say I'm excited that college football NC2A figured it all out. This year, EA Sports NC2A football, college football is out for the first time in 15 years.
Oh, okay.
20 years, because they had to figure out the name,
the
image,
player
and likeness
rights.
piece.
I think we talked about that a year ago when they were thinking about how they were going to bring it back, and because a rule changed, right? And players can make money off their name now.
They can make money off their name, image, and likeness, and so they brought EA Sports college football back. It came out this summer, but still, it's still one of those spaces where our society is still really shocked if you have a female who can talk football. That ekes into the nerd hobby of some sort. It ekes into fantasy football. I mean, one thing I've done.
We've got like a 3-circle Venn diagram of like football, video games, and girl gamers.
Yes. The example I was going to say real quick is that I'm new to fantasy football, and I've used it as a gap to approach groups of freshman boys on my campus that I'm just getting to know. Like, anybody here play fantasy football? And they're like, yeah. And the looks on their faces, how shocked they are. And maybe it's partly because I'm the principal and they probably never thought they would talk about fantasy football with the principal, but that I'm a female. And they look like the side eye they give each other when I'm reeling off players and knowledge of the game. And who's your favorite team? Oh, the Niners. Oh, but you're from Southern California. Hey man, I've been following the Niners since I was like 6. In the 80s. And they were like, what? And I'm like, I start reeling off players that we grew up watching. And they were like, oh,
but are you doing it in a gatekeeping way? Are you making them feel like they are less because they don't have the 49er knowledge you do?
I'm actually trying to not feel like less, because they're looking at each other like, what is this woman doing talking about our thing? And they are not doing that. That's my perception, because that's the societal norm. The female sportscasters are still less than. They're the sideline reporters, not in the booth with the guys.
True.
I think the why people gatekeep is because we still have those societal norms that drive us in that direction, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I mean, I'm only giving the experience as a female. There's tons of other intersectionalities on this. Yeah,
name your
discussion.
Group, and you're gonna have that idea. So 2 things there is, so why no girls allowed? Why do we have those kinds of things? And I think it has to do with a fear of change. And I think a lot of us don't like change, especially in places where there are safe spaces, right? Or are places where we go to relax. This is our, our hobbies are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be relaxing. And now there's different people or new people, and they're liking the same thing. They're just going to change it. And if it's change, it has to be bad. I am holding in my hands right now the new copy of Dungeons and Dragons.
Wow, look at that.
They're not calling it 6th edition, but it's definitely the 6th edition handbook of Dungeons and Dragons. This will be the next new time I get to go through Edition Wars and hear everybody talk about how terrible this new edition is, versus the last edition that I grew up with. And it happens every time. And it's always the same.
Right.
And that's what we'll go for we're on the sixth time around on this. And it was funny talking to Andrew in the car, and just like I was letting him know, I'm like, tomorrow new 6th edition book comes out. We got to go to the comic book store, pick it up. He's like, the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I can't believe it. I only like 5th edition. That's the one we played when I was a kid. It's obviously the best. These new editions with their maneuvers and their utilization. What do these words even mean? I can't believe it. No more stat boosts based on race. Huh. I remember a time where if you were a dwarf, it meant something, like just blah, blah, blah going on. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we're almost to the store. We get the book. He gets back in the car. He's like, oh my gosh, I love this 6th edition. I tell you what, that old stuff, it's old news. I'm all about this new book with its cool, sleek format and its beautiful art. I don't know what those old losers who played 5th edition are all about. I'm a 6th edition man now.
I mean, that's funny coming from it's his age for sure. He sounded like the 30-year-old and then was like, oh, this is actually really good. And I think that's most things with change. We were doing that our last D&D session because D&D Beyond updated some of the text in the blocks, and we were like geeking out about it. That's probably where he got his old grunt man from.
Oh, totally. And he had it all set up because he was going to do both sides and flip-flop on it on purpose, and just had it all down. And it's great to have him as a young person be able to see the silliness of that and move on from it.
How dare they get off my lawn with your new
that's right,
edition.
get off my lawn with your new D&D and your whatever.
That's a great example of being more inclusive. So how can nerd communities be more inclusive? So that was a great example, right? It's about being open-minded and willing to accept change and adapt to change when it happens.
I think it is part of that. It's being consciously willing to say to yourself, I'll have a better time if this isn't making me grumpy. So I'll make the cognitive choice to be a good person and let other people enjoy this as well. And get past that idea of if there are new people or if there is a group that is liking this thing that is very different from me, that's okay.
Yeah.
That when people fall in love with hobbies, when people fall in love with the sports team or the game or the property that you love, because of the way it works, that means we're making the pie bigger. More people who like it, the more of it they can make, whatever it might be. The more money pours into it, the better it will be, whatever that thing is. So when we see these other groups, it's about thinking new people coming in isn't taking anything away from me. It's not a finite thing. We're making the thing bigger so that there can be room for all of us. And will there be changes when we have new audiences? Yes, of course there will be. Does that make these changes automatically bad? No, of course not. Is change scary and kind of a pain in the neck sometimes? Yes, definitely, for sure. But that's life.
You know, the thing that really helped me progress in this area was when my nephew was a baby. And I remember going to Disneyland with my sister and my nieces and nephew. And I ended up having him on my lap when we went through Small World, right? And he's a baby. He's maybe one, maybe a little bit older than one, but still pacifier in his mouth. I don't even think he was one yet, but just a baby sitting on my lap and just his eyes and taking, and he was looking up at the things, he was looking over at the things, and watching him experience that for the first time really drove my understanding of what it's like to welcome people into the things that I love. I loved talking to our friend and past guest Juliana when she went through Buffy for the first time. Like, hey, what episode are you on? And I'm texting her, what episode and what's going on? And like talking to her about it. Same for my partner Sarah, what it looked like to watch her go through season 2, which is like the big hook season of Buffy where the show became a phenomenon. Like watching her go through that season and really start to get hooked, watching my roommates getting hooked back in like 98 when they saw the first couple episodes, like that welcoming to me is always a thrill. And now online, watching people on the Final Girl Facebook group, I just played through my first thing and blah, and they're like asking all these questions. Like, to me, the joy is in finding more people discovering it for the first time is so much better than sitting with someone who's known it their entire life and we have our different of opinions of it. No, I want to hear what this person has to say about it because they're just seeing it for the first time. That's really exciting to me.
Funny story. As you were talking and you were talking about trying to be inclusive, made me think of my wife, Maria, is a gardener. She is like a container gardener, and like our whole yard is all about whatever produce and stuff we can grow and these kinds of things. And so, of course, there are gardening hobby communities. The tomato growing community.
Oh, no.
Super welcoming, super inclusive. They love to trade seeds. They like to show off pictures of their weird, wild heirloom tomatoes. They'll do seed swaps. They're super nice. They give each other tips about how to catch the roly-polies before they can eat your thing, whatever. Great online hobby, growing tomatoes. You scroll down to the next one, peppers and hot sauce.
Uh-oh.
The most toxic community
really
ever. You think that's gonna be hot? You're crazy. That's not hot. My peppers are hot. This pepper's way better than that pepper. What? That's the kind of vinegar you use to do your fermenting? You must be a child. Real men use this kind of vinegar to ferment their hot sauce. Just absolutely ridiculous.
I wonder, like, not to just keep sticking on the gender roles here, but I wonder how many, like, what the percentage of male and females.
Oh, right. Like they're like the tomato one is 75% female and the hot sauce one is 75% male.
Yeah, I wonder.
I won't argue that. That sounds just about right.
It made me think of barbecuing communities, right?
Oh, is that the same way?
I mean, I don't know if it's toxic, but I just make that assumption because it's a man's thing to stand at the barbecue. But that's right. That's a societal perception. No one's ever been rude to me about barbecues, but that's the impression I get.
It could very well be. I don't watch enough Food Network, but I feel like I could easily do the research on this by being at my mom's house for a couple hours where Food Network and Home and Garden TV is on all the time. Be like, oh yeah, look at this barbecue one. It's a little weird.
It's all guys.
It's all guys.
I don't know. That just feelings, not actualities.
Watch, we're gonna find out like the Kansas City 2024 barbecue champion is some like girl combo,
women owned, blah blah blah, hoop-de-hoo. That's also very likely. But then you get like, I mean, our next question is about media's role, and as we're progressing in this discussion, it's like, how many times do you see like, this is the first time an all women's group has won the top barbecue champion of the. That's because this gatekeeping has existed.
Yeah. And that's what makes it a big deal is that that's kind of the unspoken thing. It's like, it's strange. There haven't been any women groups in this hobby ever. I guess they're really discovering it. And it's like, well, I guess maybe we're becoming a little bit more sensitive and understanding that a rising tide lifts all ships.
Well, you brought up reboots, remakes, expansions.
Yes.
I think that's a great place to talk about. I will say personally, and maybe this is a gatekeeping example, I can't stand it. And it's not because I don't want people to not love Ghostbusters or not love Buffy, but it just feels to me right now that Hollywood is taking safe bets off nostalgia than they are actually being innovative and thinking about new ideas and how do we do storytelling in a different way. I don't think we're celebrating that enough. And I think Hollywood's going safe. Look at Marvel bringing Robert Downey Jr. back to play a different character instead of finding the next big actor who can do that for them. They went the safe route. People are going to watch because it's Robert Downey Jr. Right. And so I'm struggling with all the reboots and remakes unless it's done really, really well.
As you're talking about that, I am thinking the exact same thing is it's a money grab, right? It
Yeah.
is just trying to do the best for the bottom line. And I will say, I never felt more catered to as a consumer
Hmm.
than I did when I was in my 30s and my son was between the ages of like 5 and 12, because everything that was coming out was the, hey, guy in your 30s, remember this thing? Now we've changed it so you can enjoy it with your
Right.
kid. And
Yep.
that was the formula for everything. It was the formula for Star Wars, the Muppets, the Transformers, the Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
Everything was, remember this thing from when you were a kid? Now we've redone it and packaged it so you and your kid can enjoy it. And now
Right.
that we're kind of past that, I haven't been to the movies in months.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Except that
Because
it's still happening.
it's still happening, but for the next group, for the 10 years later group, now that's happening of, hey, remember this? Now you can enjoy it with your young kid. But me
But
being 10 or so years older and my son being 10 years older, so we're like, whatever, I don't know. Dora the Explorer, who cares?
I think it depends on your genre as well, because the second
Sure.
Beetlejuice movie came out this past
Mm-hmm.
September, a month ago. That's horror genre, right? That's 80s. That was
Yeah.
Gen X time. Now, granted, that's a good reboot. They brought back the Tim Burton, did the writing, he directed it. They brought back the same actresses. And where I appreciate it is instead of a reboot through a retell, a recast, we're doing the same movie over again. You are continuing, right? That's the Paul Rudd Ghostbusters, continuing the story instead of
No, in the
a
Paul Rudd
total
Ghostbusters, they
reboot.
told the exact same story again.
Right, but meaning it's the grandson of one of the characters. It's a continuum, even though it's the same exact story.
Or
I'm
not
not saying
really.
it's good, right?
Yeah,
But it's a continuum.
like Force Awakens or whatever, right? It's like, oh no, it's
Right.
the new one, but it's the exact same movie.
It's the exact same plot line. However, it's a continuum. So at least
Okay.
you can appreciate that the characters have aged, that stuff has happened in their lives, and you're picking it back up somewhere along that time since the last
It
movie.
sounds just like the formula to me. It's like, hey, we're gonna put a new cool actor in here along with the old ones you will also remember.
But that's different than a remake. A reboot versus a remake. A remake is a remake, ignoring that the original thing existed, right? There's talks about a remake of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where they're going to make Buffy 16 and in high school, and that's a remake.
Right.
It may be good, it may not be good, but I'm not as much of a fan as those, as at least the reboots were happening.
Okay.
Right? Doesn't mean they're all good. The examples we talked about, it's the same plot line put in a new adaptation. So I struggle with it. I struggle with that a lot. I feel like we're not telling stories anymore, that we're just money grabbing off of nostalgia.
Or is that just a way of you projecting to people who might be wanting to go enjoy these properties that they shouldn't? You're gatekeeping it to keep the old one pure.
I would say no, because if they're good, it's going to bring more people and then say, hey, I want to watch the original.
Yeah, but anything can be good to any different person, and depending on their opinions and sensibilities.
Yeah, but I think there's
like, for instance, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show that you love with all your heart, is not good, Analese. You just like it.
Your opinion that it's not good, and yet it stands the test of time and has people who are half of our
people
age
who want to
watching it
make
and loving
remakes
it.
of it.
And they might make a remake and it might be good and it may not be good. But regardless of its goodness or not goodness, regardless of its success there, if it opens the door to new people loving the series, then great. But I still struggle. Like, why is that remake happening when we could do something else in the horror genre? Maybe it is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but Sarah Michelle Gellar's character existed, and now here's the next line in the Slayer series. Why aren't we doing a reboot instead of a remake? That's where I struggle. You want to capitalize off the nostalgia, at least have a continuum to where that story picks up. Not we're starting all over and telling the story all over as if the first thing didn't exist.
Man, I hope that you're ready to stand on that soapbox and talk about how bad it is to some like 13-year-old girl who watches that remake movie and loves it and thinks Buffy's the coolest thing in the world, but she can't tell her friends or do anything about it because she listened to an episode of the Nerd Best Friends podcast where Annalise told her that remakes are no good, and if you like remakes, you're
hold
an
on,
idiot.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. See, you now your gatekeeping is twisting my words and saying that I said it wasn't going to be good. I was saying do a reboot instead of a remake.
Right, because remakes are stupid, and if you like remakes, that means you're stupid.
Remakes don't make sense.
Yeah, neither do you
struggle
in your
with it.
opinions, person who likes remakes.
Who likes remakes?
I don't know. Somebody must like them. They make money.
I don't know. I'm just saying I struggle with it. I'm not saying they are good or bad. They tend to not be good. Look at the new Twister movie. That's a remake. And it was
It sure
awful.
is. Unless you like it,
I don't
then
know.
you're awful too.
Even people that have never seen it before were like, this movie sucks. So, if it's a bad movie, it's a bad movie. And that's not gatekeeping. That's just calling it for what it is.
Yeah, you're right.
That's all I'm saying. I don't care if it's good or bad, but I struggle. Like, why did they spend that money doing a Twisters movie? Why couldn't they have created something new to the genre? Why couldn't it have been something else that we don't even know yet because it's awesome and hasn't been written or invented? I just don't think their media is taking the risks. I don't think Hollywood's taking the risks. They know by rebooting Top Gun, people are going to go see it. It's a simple one to spend the money on because they're going to make their money back. I don't like it. It has nothing to do with the nerdism.
Well, it is, because if you're saying you don't like them and they're no good, then people who do like it and are excited about it, you're making them feel bad. That's the whole point about gatekeeping.
People loved the new Top Gun, but again, we're not telling a new story here.
Right. No one's arguing that. I won't even argue with you that remakes are bad. I'm just saying... By saying remakes are bad, that's a form of gatekeeping.
Yeah, but again, I'm not saying remakes are bad. I'm saying Hollywood is bad for leaning on them in the safe space instead of telling new stories.
Do you think every movie is somebody's favorite movie? Like, I wonder that sometimes. Like, you watch a movie and you're like, oh man, new Twister. And then you think, is there somebody out there who's going to grow up like the next 10 years? They're going to be like, hey, what's your favorite movie? And they're going to be like, oh man, the 2024 Twister movie. That one slaps.
I will say that it's a possibility. But
I mean, by the sheer numbers, there's got to be somebody,
the amount of people who are in the world, there is a possibility that is the case. I don't know. Our spin-off series is, do you like this?
Do you even like this? Would you in a box? Would you with a fox like this?
Is this good?
That's a quest for humanity for the last 1,000 years, looking at art and trying to figure out, is this good?
What do we say? People vote with their money.
Right.
The movie didn't make its money back. It was considered a flop. Even if it is someone's favorite, it was not successful. That one example, at least.
That's absolutely true. And that leads us to influencers and people on YouTube and other social media places that are in these hobbies, and they become the voice of these hobbies and things like that. Especially like the more niche hobby you have, like for instance, my hobby of miniature painting, there's like 10 YouTube channels that have the 100,000 subscriber marks, right? There's really only if you're in the miniature hobby and you're watching like YouTube videos and subscribing, like I bet you I could take my pen and you'd be following some of them. There just aren't that many out there, right? So then when these folks, they're in this whole algorithm, they're just living for this algorithm kind of thing and trying to make sure that they don't piss off the wrong people, but it'll happen. Whether it's a video game influencer, content creator, or miniature painter, or gamer, or whatever it might be, sometimes you're going to have an unpopular opinion. Boy, oh boy, do people come after them.
Right. It's almost people's hobbies these days. I really think people are getting tired of influencers and not taking them as seriously, which is nice. Those who try to gain their own popularity by trashing someone else's or capitalizing on something someone says or does that's maybe not as favorable, I think they get called out a lot more often these days because social media and influencers are, for a while, have been such a big thing.
The idea of having the hottest, flamiest take online isn't the way to get notoriety anymore.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I've seen more algorithms. I watch a lot of things about balancing food for diabetics. I'm type 2 diabetic and trying to find the right balance. And there's this one particular dude who doesn't flame people. He's not out to attack other people, but he'll get tagged in some stuff with other people saying like, hey, is this legit? And he'll call out these influencers and saying, look at this guy, look at all these contradictions he's making. In this one, he says Coca-Cola is bad for you. In this video, he says he opens his fridge door and there's cans of Coca-Cola in his fridge. So it's bad for you, but okay for him and his family. And then he says, oh, all sugars are bad. Buy my supplements.
Right.
Right. And so now we have like the anti-influencer thing.
Yeah.
So that gatekeeping doesn't happen. Like, you're going to lose weight by doing this. You have to avoid this, avoid that. People who stand in the grocery store saying, look at the ingredients of this thing. These are so bad, but I have organic supplements that you can buy.
It's like the pendulum has really swung back to the snake oil salesman, right? Of, like the barker who pulls into town and is like, genuine bona fide liver pills. These liver pills make you feel so good. And it's just like little tablets full of cocaine. And, I sell a ton of them. They make you feel real great. And then I move on to the next town. We're back to that when it comes to the Instagram ads and the ads you see on on YouTube and stuff. It's like, none of this can possibly be real. Right.
And everyone contradicts each other. Seed oils are bad. Here's this recipe for salmon. Just put a little bit of seed oil in it. And it's like,
are you still trying to lose weight with seed oil? And you're like, I'm sorry, what? Seed oil is trash. You should be drinking coffee made of mushrooms. Coffee made of mushrooms is the only pure proven way to lose weight fast. Take your seed oil and flush it down the toilet.
I may get a little bit of money every time you buy it, but that's not why I'm telling you to buy it. I'm telling you to buy it because I drink it myself. And they open up their fridge and there's like Folgers coffee in there. It's just the influencer thing is interesting. There's like a pushback to it. So when they try to flame someone or gatekeep in some way, it's being knocked down. And I really appreciate that. In the algorithms on social media, we have now people saying, I don't want your money. I don't have a Patreon. I'm just here to tell you that this is trash and this is wrong and it's dangerous because what this person is saying actually got someone to the hospital. It's really interesting to watch.
If you can even trust that side of it. It's wild.
There's that as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of got into this discussion anyways, but self-reflection, Rob, do you gatekeep? Are you,
we
recognize?
Well, we know that Analese gatekeeps actively on
according
the show.
to Rob. Rob is gatekeeping my gatekeep abilities.
That's right. I'm gatekeeping your bad time. Hey, everybody.
Back in my day.
Listen, you don't want to listen to Analese. Real nerds listen to Rob.
That's just because you're a guy.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. We've come full circle.
Of course I do. I'm sure I do. Just in the implicit biases I have when I talk about things, I am absolutely sure that I probably gatekeep people away from things. I don't want to. In fact, I purposefully would like not to. That's part of the reason why we have this show is because we want to say, like, you can be nerdy about a lot of things. If you're nerdy like us, we want to be best friends and give you a place to be thinking about this stuff and talking in your ears once a week about our nerdy hobbies and making you feel like you're not alone and those kinds of things. So purposefully, I've made it a mission to try to not be a gatekeeper, but I don't know if I can help it after 30 years in these different hobbies and the way that I came up and how different it is now. It's very easy, especially the change thing. Whenever it's, there's a new edition of this and you're going to have to learn new rules, or, and you might like them better, but really? Right. I got to change. The bases on my miniature aren't the right size anymore. My flanking gives me +2 instead of advantage now. I got to remember this stuff. Like, I can get a little nostalgia bias on it. I can get a little like, oh man, well, I remember the old way. It was a lot easier. And it's like, no, it wasn't easier. It wasn't better. It was just the one I played the most. So those are the
one you got used to
that are tattooed into my brain. So no, I don't have like a big revelation that sparked the idea of this episode where I could be like, oh man, you guys, I really screwed up. And let me tell you this story. Like, I don't have anything big like that. I just try to be aware of it and aware of just the biases I have and the things that I say, because I will often and always say the first thing that comes into my mind if I think it's going to get somebody to laugh. So when something new comes out, I will always be the one that's like, what? That sounds just like blah, 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 something to try to make people laugh. But then depending on who's around, that's like, oh, well, Rob doesn't like that. He's not gonna be cool if I decide to like that.
I would say I'm more than sure I've been guilty of it in the past. I know sometimes the thoughts run in my head, what are you doing with a 49ers shirt, or what are you doing with it? And usually try to stop myself from those thoughts. I don't know that I say them out loud, but I know I've had those thoughts in the past and just really do my best to just let people be. And what I find for me frustrating is sometimes it's just the patience. it's not intentionally trying to gatekeep, but also, do I really want to invite people who are brand new to playing XYZ and then sit there and take the time to walk them through it? And maybe that's my own feelings, like the reason why I didn't play D&D for a really long time, the reason why I never played Magic. Like, I don't want to slow down the game and make people stop and get everybody all frustrated at me. I think I feel the same way. Like, do I really have the patience and time to slow this down for somebody? And that's a form of gatekeeping too. So the reality is, as I've gotten older, and I think as we gotten older, those opportunities are fewer and further between, that now we stop and say, yeah, I would take the time. Right. And let me, you do fantasy football. Let me sit down and chat with you about, like, I ended up talking to a colleague, a principal of one of the junior highs. And I knew the answer was yes. I'm like, hey, do you play fantasy football? And we talked for like 30 minutes, more than I think I've ever talked to him in one sitting at a time. And he told me about like the 4 or 5 different leagues. And there's this vampire league that he's in, where it's this crazy rules where someone gets selected as a vampire, and you can take someone from everybody's team, and like you get to break all these rules, and everyone else has to stay stagnant no matter what. It's like, he just told me about all these different versions of fantasy football. I would have never known anything about it.
I'm excited. So, okay, Vampire League. What?
Vampire League. I'm telling you that I might be into that.
Right?
Because you don't have to do anything unless you're the vampire. And one person is selected vampire for the whole season. That's it. Everyone else picks
it's not like every week somebody's the vampire and they can steal your players.
It is one person the whole season. And he says sometimes the vampire doesn't even win because they make bad decisions. Everyone else stays stagnant. Like, it's interesting, right? But point being, like, he could have gatekeeped. He could have been a gatekeeper for me. Like, because I'm like, yeah, this is my first time. He goes, who's on your team? But like,
right. And definitely could have been like, I don't have time for some new person. Exactly. I'm a pro. Yeah.
And that was a good reminder for me that that's a great way to not gatekeep. And as we get older, I think both of us, but I can definitely tell from my perspective that I've gotten better at that than I would have maybe 15 years ago.
Sure. And I've gotten into that space as well. But I know I also recognize that everything has to be very much on my terms, right? Like, do I want to play D&D? Yes. Am I willing to invite brand new people and teach them the game? Absolutely. When I want to do it. Don't come up to me and be like, hey, can I play? I'm like, no, take a hike. This is my time.
You're right. We welcome everybody.
We try to welcome everybody. Listen, if this is your first episode of the Nerd Best Friends, welcome. You've started at the right place. If you enjoyed what you heard today and you want to hear more, just listen in reverse order, because we've only gotten better as time has gone by. So you don't want to start at the beginning when things were a little rough. You start every episode is the right place to start, and then just go back and listen to the episode 2 weeks ago. Start listening to last season in reverse order. You're going to love it. Just hit that filter button on your podcatcher where you're going to subscribe. And and it's never been a better time. If you really want to catch up, join the Patreon. We got bonus episodes going up all the time. Listen, there's never been a better time to get on board the Nerd Best Friends podcast. What are you doing? You eating seed oil? You eating mushrooms with your coffee? You're a sucker. Put that money in a good...
You playing D&D 6? Don't do that. No,
oh my God.
I don't want to... Listen,
the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons? What are you, a baby? Get the real... Oh, that's you have to use your hands? That's like a baby toy.
You're rolling dice instead of using the embedded dice roller.
The embedded D&D dice rolling macros on your virtual tabletop.
Listen, I'm not going to gatekeep someone's new experience to Nerd Best Friends. Go back and find the subjects you are most favorable or into and listen to those first.
And listen
Tailor
to Rob
your experience
on them.
Because you know what? Nerd Best Friends is not sequential. So find the ones you want and then listen to the rest. And thanks for listening.
Actually, it might be even a crazier plot twist, or like a funnier way to do it, and be like, oh my gosh, they went for years thinking Intern Jones wasn't a real person.
Go back and find out. Back again for another week. Rob, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
So the nerdiest thing I did this week was take some advice from you. And I know that I think it was last season, you shared...
Wait, everybody, did you hear that? Okay, continue. Yes, last season I shared something.
You talked about visiting a place, I think it's called Sandbox VR, down in
Yes.
Southern California, where they have different VR experiences where you and your friends go in and like have an adventure in virtual reality. And so we had a bachelor party for Adam. We mentioned the congratulations at their wedding
Yes.
that we were at last week. But before that, we went to the
Newlyweds.
bachelor party and we decided, because of the recommendation that you had and because the friends we were going with, everybody there was somebody we'd played Dungeons and Dragons with before.
Oh, sure.
We chose the like Dragonfire D&D virtual reality experience that you had done as well.
The where you have to go after the shard.
You go after
Keep
the
shard or whatever.
crystal shard on the top of the tower and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Absolutely loved it. We just absolutely had such a great time. We filled the room, all the spaces, and everybody played a different character where they could. And we had to talk about making the choices and just to be in that space of, oh, we played Dungeons and Dragons. We know all these tropes and all this stuff, but then be there as like a bunch of like fat, sweaty guys like in virtual reality, karate chopping and ducking and hitting the floor and bumping into each other because we can't see, and having just an epic, awesome, high fantasy, nerdy time. Just cannot beat it. What a cool thing. I'm
Isn't
so
it
glad we did it.
amazing?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild.
You can't quite explain how cool the experience is. I don't think I did a good job explaining. Like I showed you videos and you were like, yeah, it looks like virtual reality. You have to go do it to really understand being in that space. When I turned around and there was an orc that was 7 feet behind me, like I felt he was
It's
right
scary.
there
Like
on
when
me.
it started, it was like, oh my gosh, this is for real.
Yes. Okay, so there's a point where you have to choose about going up a path or going up the elevator, which one, or like where it goes up the elevator.
We did the elevator.
Isn't it bonkers?
Absolutely. The second that thing started trucking up, like my knees buckled, like I got set to hold my balance. And I was like, duh, I'm still standing on the floor in a big room.
The worst part for me is one of the floors has a bunch of spiders, right?
Yes.
One of the little sensors had fallen off of my ankle wrap. And so I stepped on it and thought there was a spider on the ground. And I was just like hitting it.
Freaking out. During the spider part, I was the one who realized, like, wait, there's sensors on our ankles. We should be stomping these spiders. Because everybody else was like bent over trying to like hit them with their weapons, and they're crawling up their arms, and people are screaming and freaking out. And I'm over there, you see on the video, just like with my knees up, stomp, 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 like cartoon grape stomping. Oh,
and then
my gosh.
Having to duck under the dragon. Did anyone get hit with the dragon's fire because they didn't duck?
Oh, absolutely. I did the same thing. I like ran I was like, oh, I can beat it. I'm going to run over to the other side. I didn't make it.
Nope.
In fact, it was that one that we were wondering if, like, what would happen if there was a TPK? Because I'm pretty sure that was a TPK. They just kept somebody, like, it defaults to give somebody doesn't die so they can go around and heal people.
It wants you to finish the adventure.
Right. Yes. You're never going to, like, oh, sorry, thanks for the money. You lost. Get out.
And when I went through it, it was just me and my brother, which I'm going to remind our listeners that this was the June before I moved to Ukiah, and I invited Rob and Andrew to come with, but it was the day after the Santa Barbara Brew at the Zoo Festival. Rob's like, I'm going to be too hungover to... So he bailed on us. So it was just me and my brother. Me and Carlos were the only ones doing it. And luckily he's like, duck. And I just like ducked and not even... He was the one paying attention to the fire in that moment. I'm like, oh, good call.
Well, I'm glad I finally got to go.
Me too.
You were right. I totally should have gone that day.
It was a good way.
And now that I know what to expect, I would like to go back more and do some
please.
Different ones, because I was like worried, like, is it going to be really strenuous? Am I going to just be come out of there just soaking with sweat and all like beat up? What's going to happen? Is somebody going to clock me in the face with their fake weapon? Right. Like, what's going to happen? And now that I've done, I'm like, oh no, this is super fun. This is like going to the arcade and playing a really cool long video game. This is
I will 100%. Let's book some time next time I'm down there to go. And if we could just avoid zombie ones, I would appreciate
the zombie one. Did not seem appealing to me. We did the D&D one. There's a pirate one that I think would be really fun. And then there's like a cool science fiction shootery one that I'm sure is
that
like
would be
shooting
cool
a bunch
too.
of floods, Master Chief and his friends. Halo.
Area 51, the old arcade game that we played forever. Yeah. So you tell me you weren't like, I was drenched in sweat.
No, we were absolutely sweating. And it was 107 degrees that day. Like it was.
They don't have ACs going on crazy in there.
No, because they have to have fans to like help with the experience. So like when you go on the elevator, they turn the fans on to make it you feel like you're moving. But when you're not, it was just hot.
Yeah. And if you filled the room, extra hot, bunch of sweaty dudes.
What's the nerdiest thing you did this week, Analese?
For me, the nerdiest thing I did this week was we did a complete house overhaul. There's a 3-bedroom house that we live in. They're kind of smallish bedrooms. We have now slept or put our bedroom in each of the rooms. And by default, we gave me the biggest room because it was back in the corner to be the nerd room.
For the nerd room, yeah.
We've learned in the year plus that we've lived here now that it is temperature-wise the coolest room in the house. This summer was pretty hot summer for us up here, and both of us were struggling to sleep and finally just went, we need to do it. We just need to move into the biggest room. I had to tear down and move the entire nerd room. So we started by putting everything into big plastic bins and moving it to the living room, moved all the empty furniture from the nerd room to the living room, shampooed the carpets and did deep cleaning, and moved our bedroom into that room. And then we moved one room from where it was to our bedroom, and then started to unpack the nerd room. We did it over the course of a weekend.
It wasn't a 1-to-1 switch. All
it
three
was a
rooms
3-room
got
switch.
redone.
Yes. And all 3 got deep clean and all that stuff. And so now I'm in a different room, and it's a plus and a minus. What a PETA. If you know what that stands for. What a pain in the what a PETA to do all that. And also, it was really great to empty all the shelves and go through stuff. And I put a bunch of stuff up on eBay while we were moving stuff around and reorganized stuff and looked at all the books that I had. I have a stack of books that I'm just taking to Goodwill because I'm never going to read them again. And it was a plus and a minus. So moving the nerd room and setting up another nerd room in a different space that's smaller. Because if you remember, I bought those IKEA shelves and the Kallax shelf based off of the length of that long wall of the big room we were in. So I had to move things around and figure out how to max out the smaller room with that same furniture. So here we are. I'm in a new nerd room recording.
I mean, it's always good to do, right? Because you look at things you hadn't looked at in a while, and you get rid of some stuff that you don't need anymore. But
plus and minus. But the nerdiest thing I did last week was reorganize and set up a new nerd room and figure out how I'm going to play my games and how I'm going to paint. And, when you do that, because, you had systems. I had a system of pulling out a table and setting up a game. I have to rethink that system. And to me, that's the nerdy part of it. How am I going to set up my paint table now that I don't have a spare table to paint on? Just all that systems work.
Yeah. And, if nothing else, it gives you an excuse to look at and touch all your cool stuff. Because that's what we do. We collect. And so, remember this? I needed to do this with this. And look at this entire box of Marvel zombies that's been primered in black and not slap chopped yet. That's a great rainy day activity. Right? Exactly. Oh, I can't go spray anything. It's raining. Good thing I have these guys who are already sprayed. That saved me this week. I built a guy and he's still sitting right here with no prime on it. But luckily, I had some guys that were already primed that I could fit right in for this week's mini.
New nerd room.
Next episode, Nerd Watching is back. We will discuss our favorite films and television shows from the 2010s. Definitely not one you want to miss. Stay in the loop with Nerd Best Friends by hitting that subscribe or follow button on your device. We absolutely love our fans, especially those who spread the word and drop us those sweet 5-star ratings. Connect with us on social media at Nerd Best Friends or send us a message at podcast@nerdbestfriends.com. Let's grow our nerd family and keep the geeky fun going strong.
I'm looking forward to the next one. I love our Nerd Watching episodes.
Me too. We're going to have a good one, and that will lead into, because it's like a top episode, that always leads into a good bonus episode, which you can get if you are a Patreon subscriber.
Thanks, nerds. We'll see you next time.
Genuine bona fide liver pills. These liver pills make you feel so good. All right. Listen, enough goofing around. Can we be serious?